Georgia.
I thought it was
Georgia's above Florida,
Yeah.
Jim.
What?
I was like, Georgia.
Wait, what?
No, it's to the
Oh my
left.
God.
We're moving
It's on the
Bring
big.
back the U.S.
Yep,
map.
good
He's
call.
done
There's
it
a
once. What
Gulf.
will he remember?
Georgia's on the left of the. It's by the Gulf.
This episode is made possible by our therapy partners Dirty B, Myra, and Pickett from fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. This is Pod Therapy, real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. Batmom is in the house. If there's ever an episode to play Jim's Neurotic Bingo, it's this one.
Get out those boards.
Yep.
And now, broadcasting from the churn, that's Dr. Jim, that's Whitney, I'm Nick. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
That's Mom.
That's
Also,
wild.
Jim's Neurotic Bingo is linked in the episode description if you're listening.
Yes, play along.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's there every week if you're bored.
I've never played it, but you should.
It's pretty fun. It's pretty cute how it like lights up and stuff and makes noises. And I'm pretty sure every square when you touch it, it has a sound clip from the show that plays, and it's all randomly generated from the show.
Oh, that's cool.
Is there
People-
a square for if you mention Jim's Neurotic Bingo in the episode?
There will be. Get on it.
Get on it.
Manu.
Somebody add that square.
We need you to add that. So, hi, Mom.
Hi, baby.
Welcome back to Pod Therapy. Always glad to have you as a guest.
How many episodes have you been on so far?
Oh, my gosh.
4 or 5.
Yeah, I think so.
She's up there.
Okay.
Well, at least this is your third one in this studio.
Right.
Yeah,
and
and
one
And then
in
you
the
had
other
one at
one.
level 9.
All right.
Was that her first one at level
Yeah,
1?
yeah.
Yep.
So
That's
4?
when we got those black mugs,
Right.
which, by the way, I still use.
Oh, I
Good.
love mine.
I took
too.
it golfing last weekend. I just
good.
loaded up with coffee and I take it
It's a
with me golfing.
solid. It's a
It
tumbler.
is a, yeah, it's a,
It's very resilient. All
oh,
metal
yeah.
on the inside. Get that
I've
plastic
dropped
cap.
that several times.
Yeah, it hasn't cracked.
No.
Because isn't it in acrylic or something?
I've beat 3 men to death. with that
Wow! You don't hit them in the teeth, obviously.
no.
The blood washes right off.
Yeah, it does.
Blood washes,
Yes.
no fingerprints,
Non-stick
no
surface.
questions.
Nope.
Yeah.
What is it made of? What
It's
is?
stainless steel, but
No,
I
but
have
the outside.
I have maybe 3 layers of acrylic on
That's
that.
what that is?
And, yeah.
It's acrylic paint.
No, the
Like
what
nails.
Nail polish?
Unlike like nails,
no,
acrylic nails.
I can't think of it now. The resin.
Oh, yeah,
resin, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like mine too.
Yeah.
Those are great. We have like 5 in my house because she shipped one to every one of my kids. So
Aw.
we've all got them. But welcome back to the show, Mom. Thanks for continuing to do this. I'm sure I will have left the show by the time you come back next year, and you won't have to do it again. Because if you haven't
Oh, no, she's
noticed,
still invited.
they're all
Yeah,
assholes.
yeah.
She'll be back more often.
Remember, she texted
Yeah.
Finally, we
again.
got there, dead weight Jim.
We'll fly her out here on a real airline.
With water and a bathroom.
Yes, we'll fly her out here on a real airline because we love her.
Once the points are gone, I'll do better.
We just
okay?
care about
I
her
call-
safety and comfort.
I call bullshit on that.
Dude, if I get like a
Are you gonna get
Southwest
the
card, I'll
Southwest
use
card?
those points.
Okay.
That would be a real airline, and the bags fly free. God, can you imagine?
Yeah, or you could just pony up and fly Delta.
I basically should because she always brings 8
Yeah,
goddamn
you
bags.
basically should.
I'm basically paying for a Delta flight.
You basically should.
I need to get rid
Basically.
of it. Once the points are gone, I'm free. Then I'm out. I'm out for good. I'm going to destroy the card, and that'll be it.
It's all words.
Well,
One day.
Yep.
One day.
I'll tell you what, out of all the people in this room, I'm the one that came up with the plan.
It's not a
that
good
you
plan.
don't seem to be on board
Yeah.
with.
It's a terrible plan. It gets me
great
murdered
plan.
in a foreign country.
It does
Nope.
not. It gets
I don't
you to
want out that
experience
bad.
the world.
No, I don't want to experience the world. The world's a shithole, Nick.
But he'll
Okay.
fly spirit.
Yeah, exactly. I don't.
No,
I don't fly Spirit, Whitney. I send my mother on Spirit.
The world's
I
a
don't
shithole,
fly
and
it.
Jim wants to be reminded of that fact anytime he gets on a fucking airplane.
Exactly.
If you would like to hear all about Mom's fun flight experience as well as her exciting car adventure, patreon.com/therapy. This is a good week. If you have not joined, this is a good week for it. Just $1 will
We
get
say
you the
this week
extended
is a good
show.
week every week, and
Yeah.
no,
No, we
really don't.
lie, but
No.
this time it is.
This
true.
one is a real good week. And actually, most weeks, Jacob tells people they should not join the Patreon.
Yeah.
And
This
there's
week included.
Not much we can do about that. But yeah, check it out. Patreon.com/therapy for as little as $1. You can grab that extended show, which is what we're referencing, and you get it a day earlier and no ads. So it's just win. And you get to hang out in the Discord community, and that's all for $1. Kick it up to $5, and you get our Monday deep dives, rants, interviews, and all sorts of fun stuff. This week, as this episode airs, I have released the second installment in my 7 Deadly Sins of Psychotherapy series. And this one's about values imposition. So Jim goes on a tirade
Like missionary?
about, yep. Can I quit the show a third time? I don't know. It's not a bit. Anyway, patreon.com/therapy. Check it out. We've got some great questions this week. And of course, my mom is here to lend her wisdom to it, which we always welcome extra answers, Mom. Even lived experience. It's never stopped Jacob. So you just throw it out there.
He has his life coaching.
He does have a life
Card.
coach jingle
Yeah.
and a card
My
that we
card.
made him.
I've got a jingle
that
and
he
a
forgets
card.
he has.
I've
He
got
almost
a
had a
website.
website. Yeah.
I think I do have a website. It's just not made.
Yeah. We own the URL, but somebody needs to take over that. First question is from University Jeff, an old fan of the show, good writer. And this one's titled, Am I Codependent? Hello, Pod Therapy dorks and Whitney. Hopefully this doesn't get caught by your spam filters. Why? Because you think we added your name to the, the
Do not,
blacklist?
do not write.
We've marked it 5 times. He keeps changing his goddamn email. I have a feeling my last 2 emails were caught in the spam filter.
Oh, no.
Or the filter of this question was answered in a previous episode.
That's possible.
Yeah, no, it was.
Both of them are
We
possible.
realized that our spam filter was being pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
And we eventually dove in there and found some things. But yeah.
if we encourage people to write in, but we have a really aggressive
I
spam.
know. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. We're very highbrow. You gotta really
That's
impress that
For
spam
Ice Cream
filter.
Social, I turned off the spam filter entirely
Oh,
to
that's
stop
very
it from
smart.
catching things. And not kidding around, I get 15 spam emails for every email that comes
Wow.
through. Minimum. 15 at the bare
That's
minimum.
maddening.
Sometimes it's more than
That
that.
is a lot.
No
Yeah.
thanks.
Nope.
So you got my email about those penis pills?
I did, yes, thank you.
Yeah, a great discount.
Yeah, those
That
pills
guy's-
look just like penises.
Yeah. It tastes like them too. It has been a while since I last
Cream
wrote-
filled.
Oh my God.
It has been a while since I last wrote, and I have really been trying to do things that put me outside of my comfort zone so I can grow as a person. I went to therapy for over a year to help get me back on track after I was dumped by Rosie last summer. And I honestly am in a better place because the therapy and the dumping. I surrounded myself with a new community to help me work through my breakup. I play volleyball with my local community rec center, take group fitness classes, play board games with a new friend group, and became a house parent for a big fraternity to help save money as I plan to buy a house here in a few years.
Nice.
That's really cool. I'm even thinking of getting certified to teach fitness classes as they are so much fun to participate in. Life,
Right on.
that is really cool.
It's like Nick wrote this email.
Yeah, it almost is. You're in a fraternity house now? That's pretty cool. Life
If I was in a fraternity house, you guys would have already heard of
This is true. Yeah.
We,
Guys,
we would have partied there.
game in my place.
Oh, party!
Ah, toga. Life as me is generally going well, and incidentally, I think there might be some new dating prospects for me in the community I have built. Though I'm hesitant to pursue them, as my anxiety brain thinks I could destabilize or hurt the community I've built. I've noticed that my brain will take some thoughts I have and sprint away with them. Not run, sprint. Going down rabbit holes and thinking about things that could happen in 2, 4, or even 10 years when it comes to ladies that I might be romantically interested in or have interacted with a couple of times. Here's an idea of what these thoughts can be. 1. Wow, this person is really great or pretty. I wonder if they have kids or want kids. 2. How would this person get along with my friends and family? 3. What would living with this person be like? 4. Their job is X. Would that mesh well with my schedule if we were to try and date? 5. I wonder if there's enough space in my or their place for me to move in someday, because I have a lot of stuff. That's a pretty good jump there, Jeff.
7. I wonder what her name is.
8. What's her blood type? Would we be donor matches? I was dumped in February via text for expressing similar thoughts to a lady I had been seeing for about a month. She told me that what I expressed to her was a pattern of codependency, and she could not trust what I communicated to her going forward. Further, stating that codependent people tend to people please, and she believed I would say what I believed she wanted to hear, rather than what I truly meant, and she could not trust my communication. I know I have codependent tendencies as my mother and father are in a codependent relationship where my mother basically puts her needs below those of everyone else, especially that of my alcoholic father. So that is what was modeled for me growing up. My questions are these. 1. What is codependency? Or, if that is too nebulous to define, what are some things that people can do that are codependent so I can understand codependency better? Number 2, are the thoughts that my anxious brain runs with a codependent thing? Or is that something that folks in their late 30s tend to think about when they're dating? Since I know you are experts at being single. Thanks again for everything that you do. I will continue to support this podcast until you are sick of doing it, even if you do not read every letter I write. Thanks, University Jeff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thanks, Jeff.
Well, I'm glad you wrote in, Jeff, because it is.
You didn't give up. You didn't say my other letters weren't read, so I won't.
That
write
too.
it.
Yeah. Also,
Tenacity.
a clear sign that you're codependent with this podcast.
Yeah.
That you,
You're not.
hey guys, you didn't answer my last 3 messages, but here's another one.
He's clearly not getting the message.
Are we cool?
that we don't want him to write in.
That's the one piece of advice you give every time. Just take the hint.
No, yeah, thank you for fighting through the spam filters. Because I stress about that.
Yeah. I know.
We've all talked about Jim's anxieties. Let me tell you about Nick's
Get in there,
anxieties.
Nick.
Nick's
Let it out.
anxieties are that somebody who listens to us is going to be upset by something we do.
Yeah. My anxiety is that somebody is listening
Yeah.
to
So
us.
your emotions
Yeah,
rely on
at
how
all.
other people are
Yes.
feeling.
Yes.
Yes.
That's real.
As a podcast host, yes.
The eggshells are a lifestyle.
But thank you for writing in. Also, it's great to hear from you because you've written in a few times, and it's always great to get these updates.
Yeah.
And it sounds like there's some really significant progress happening.
That's
so
great.
Glad that you wrote in.
I like this.
Yeah.
Codependency.
Yeah. So what I usually share with my clients, which I'd love to hear Jim's input on this too, but is typically if I sense that codependency is a topic we should address, I usually describe it as when our feelings or emotions are kind of dependent on what other people around us are feeling. So in this situation, you gave the example of your mom and dad. Your mom might feel like if she were in a codependent relationship, like what she does, she will put her own needs and wants aside to make your father happy or to please him. And that makes her feel, quote, happy. I'm putting that in quotes.
Yeah.
Because sometimes what can happen is the person who's in that codependent relationship may not even know over time what actually makes them happy or what affects their own feelings because they're so used to giving to others. They give, thinking that is satisfying to them. But in reality, their cup is emptying over time. Mm-hmm. And that's where they find their value and self-worth is in that type of relationship. And you mentioning your parents, I think is kind of important because a lot of kids that grow up in family dynamics like that, where either there's abuse or it sounds like alcohol abuse from your dad, they can tend to see that as their way of earning love. Like if I just, how can I make my parent happy? Because maybe they're focusing on alcohol more than me, or maybe they're on my case all the time, so I have to be perfect. So yeah, mainly just the emotions depending on other people's emotions.
I like that. I think that is
like simple, but
well, but that's probably the lowest common denominator. And honestly, I think that codependency can be a frustrating thing to talk about because other things we have these clinical definitions for, and codependency is not one.
Oh my gosh. When I first started back at the foster care agency where I worked with Nick at, there was another therapist there. So working with kids who had sexually acted out, there was one parent that would come in for family session, and this other therapist that I worked with would be like, oh my gosh, they're so codependent. And she would be giving me like paperwork on like how to address codependency. And I'm not going to lie, I was like an intern therapist and I was like, I don't know what the hell this is. Like, this was like over a decade ago.
Right.
So I was like, what is codependency? Like
it's this
exactly
phrase that everybody uses.
And I felt like I could never find a great definition of it at the time. It makes so much more sense now.
It is sometimes, I think, also a kind of a catch-all of
Yes.
like, kind of
Yes.
describing relationship problems. It's
Yes.
like,
Yes.
Which is where I like this writer wrote in
Yeah.
because I have different thoughts about that. But just describing codependency.
It's really hard to define, and it gets overused all over the place. And I think it's, like you said, Nick, it's a catch-all. But I really agree with that lowest common denominator definition, Whitney, that fundamentally, and first off, I don't want to pathologize it, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that we have to be careful with that because there are all sorts of different attachment styles. We've referenced that theory before by Bowlby. And there's a great book, by the way, out there right now that makes that theory very approachable called Attached. And it explains codependency, like any kind of personality trait or relational style, can become bad if excessive. Excessive independence would make you bad at relationships.
Yes.
If you were like, oh, I'm the exact opposite of codependent. I don't give a shit what my spouse thinks. I don't care if they're happy or sad. I'm going bowling with the boys.
Yeah.
Like, I'll never forget the day. I think I've told this story. I was part of a pool league. You shoot pool, billiard pool. And in one week, we're at a bar and we're waiting on our guy to show up. And we text him. We're like, hey, man, are you on your way? Like, what's going on? He's like, oh, bro, I'm on my way. Sorry, I'm like 10 minutes late. You know, I'm speeding. I'll get there. It's like, okay, yeah. So we delay the game a minute. Like, hey, our guy's on the way. He'll be here to play his match or whatever. He comes running in. He's like, oh, sorry, guys. He's like putting together his pool cue. We're like, oh, you know, hey, man, to take a deep breath. You know, we don't want you to come in feeling frazzled. You know, get a beer. Like, they're cool. And so he's like, okay. So we get him a beer. We're like, so just late night at the office, man? He goes, oh, no, my wife just had a baby. I'm like, oh, this week?
On a pool night?
Yeah, that bitch. I was like, what do you mean,
How
like
dare
this
she?
week? He's like, no, an hour ago. I'm like, why
Oh,
are
like,
you
just
here?
had a baby.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You just cut the umbilical cord. Like, what the shit? Why are you here?
Oh my god.
And he's like, oh, well, you know, I'm not going to let this, like, change my life.
Oh.
And I'm looking at him like, you, sir, are a monster.
Yeah.
You are just a
The
monster.
definition of parenting.
Yeah,
Your life
like-
will be changed.
We all took a vote. We were like, hey, you need to leave.
Good.
Please go back to the hospital.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, you know, I'm here. I'm going to play. Like, no, you're off the team.
Yeah.
And now you can do with that whatever you want.
Yeah.
But like, as like, you need to fucking leave, right? So like,
Sounds to me like this guy was better at pool than Jim.
yeah, I need to get him off the team.
Yeah.
He was
Strategy
ruining my.
one.
I'm guessing you guys lost that. night.
Yeah, we took the L, but I think we
You
took the
planned
high
that
ground.
pregnancy, didn't you?
But is that guy codependent? Fuck no. Like he
Yeah.
is. Nobody's ever going to accuse that guy of being a codependent, but he is a monster. And so, like any trait or relational style taken to an extreme can become really unhealthy and toxic in any relationship. But Whitney, I think your definition is right. Codependency, the way I see it as well, is being overconsumed with the temperament or opinions of your partner, such that, as Jeff's
Or friendships or other
girlfriend
relationships.
told him, like, hey, I don't trust you. Like, I don't know that I'm meeting the real you. And that's problematic because if you're not going to authentically be in this relationship, I'm worried that you're pretending, right? You're just trying to make me happy.
Yeah.
And some people will say, I like that about you. That's actually really sweet about you
Yes.
and doesn't bother me at all. The last person I was with was a jerk and didn't care about my happiness at all. And you're fumbling all over yourself. And I find it charming and sweet. And I'm going to try to encourage you and give you permission and safety in our relationship to
Yeah.
find your voice because I do want to hear it.
Yeah.
That will happen too.
Yeah.
So this question of is he codependent, I don't think any of us like it as a black and white yes or no.
No.
And I don't even know that I hear anything so far in the letter that makes me think, yes, you are.
That's how I feel reading it. Nothing that you shared, at least.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say for sure, but
Well, I have another theory.
oh
Do it.
boy.
I think this may be an issue just having to do with relationships being single, newly single.
Okay.
Tell us about your experience, Nick.
I will.
Here it comes.
No, so a lot of this stuff that he's talking about, I can relate to because I feel like I did those exact same things.
Overthinking?
Oh, those were like
Yes.
thought
Yeah.
patterns sometimes
Yeah,
that would come into
absolutely.
your head.
After, I was in a relationship for 10 years, got divorced very quickly, very suddenly, unexpectedly, and then was thrown into the world of dating and being single. And that was very uncomfortable. And so I tried to, like,
Fill that void.
fill that void. Yeah, like anybody who would be around, like, yeah, I'll date you, and
Right.
then I got very serious about every single one of them right away.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about anything having to do with codependency. It was about my issues and insecurities with being single
Right.
and being alone.
Right.
You're not
and so-
choosing that path, really. It was
Isn't
like,
that
Yeah.
also
yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
habit as well?
For
Like, you're-
sure.
You're coming out of a marriage. There's kind of like there's a way that your mind processes. This is how a relationship works.
Yeah.
Yes.
Going into a different type of relationship, now you've got to kind of relearn that and get into new habits as well.
Yeah, because when you're married or you're in a relationship for a long period of
Yeah.
time, decisions you make are decisions that you make with somebody else.
Yes.
Because it
Yes.
affects that person. Then
Yes.
you're single, and all of a sudden, like, oh, I get to make decisions on my own.
Yeah.
But most people don't
Or I
realize
have to make
that.
decisions on my own.
Exactly. And so, like, you think like, oh, well, I've gone on 3 dates with this person, so we're kind of a thing now.
Right.
So when I make a decision, I should probably include this
I was
other
going to get a
person.
haircut. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
They're like, I
It's
don't,
like,
I don't know.
Do you like my beard?
Yeah. What I was going to trim it back.
What
You
about the
guys like-
mustache?
like,
Yeah. I was going to buy these new shoes. What do you think about that?
Like, I've never been to your house. I don't care what your hair looks
Hey,
like.
I was going to
It's
put
like,
you as a beneficiary on my IRA.
exactly,
I just
yeah.
wanted to make sure I got the
Yeah.
address right.
Yeah, what's your social security number?
So,
Yeah.
Nick, in your opinion, when Jeff talks about going on these little dates and his brain jumping to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and his brain going into all these rabbit holes of like, I wonder if she has enough space for me to move my stuff into her house, or like she'd move into mine, and like, you know, like this idea of really, I mean, he talks about, is this a late 30s dating thing that you just are thinking bigger? Like I mean, is that bad? Because I feel like if this letter was from University Jessica, and Jessica was like, well, when I meet a man, I really ask myself, is he marriage material?
Yeah.
And what, you know, does he want a home?
Yeah.
And like, are we aligned? Nobody would think that's weird. We'd be like, well, that's just normal. You
And
know?
I don't think there's anything wrong with the questions that are
Yeah.
being asked.
Yeah.
I think it's perfectly fine to ask those questions and to have those thoughts. I think where it becomes problematic is when you act on them.
Right.
Like if you start, asking the other person like, well, I need to know all of these things about you.
Right.
Then the other person starts to feel like, oh, wow, we're moving really fast here.
Yeah.
I just met you, and it can kind of scare some people off.
Yeah. You got to play it cool. Forget her name a couple times in the conversation.
Yeah. Just call her Wednesday.
Yeah. Whatever, girl.
It's Thursday. I don't talk to you today.
Yeah, to me it sounds almost like fantasizing. You're like thinking about what
Yeah.
your life would
Yeah.
be like with that person. Not, oh, let me make sure I make room for them. I don't hear you saying that.
Yeah.
with these
You're
questions.
auditioning. You're
Yeah.
simulating.
Exactly. And I had thoughts like that too. Like if I dated somebody and I went on one date with them and they were talking about that they really wanted to settle down and have a family and have kids, then I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm out.
Yeah,
Right.
Because
that's a big
that's
deal.
not where I'm at, and that's not going to happen.
Right. This
So
is part of the checking on
Yeah.
where we're both at.
yeah, so I don't
mentality.
necessarily think there's anything wrong with having those thoughts. I don't think that makes you codependent. I would take a look at, just this idea of if you were in a relationship for a long period of time and then now you're single, it may be difficult to adjust to being single. So maybe that's kind of what's happening here.
Yeah.
And a lot of that I think just has to do with you learning to be okay with yourself first,
Yeah.
being single and just being by yourself. And then once you're okay with that, then you can start including other people.
Which Jeff seems to have made a lot of good progress on.
Yeah, totally.
And something that Jeff said in the letter that I really like is saying it was, and I think he's spinning it a certain way, but he's saying like, I got into therapy, which was good for me, and I had a breakup, which was good for me.
Yeah.
And that's interesting
That's
to hear
a-
somebody, because I remember his letter. I remember the letter back then. And it was a really tough, episode of his life. And for now, a year outside of that, over a year, 18 months outside of that, for him to reflect and say, that was healthy for me. I learned a lot about myself and about what I'm looking for and about how I come off and what was going on at the time. Because as I recall, that Jeff was getting involved into a very complex situation dating-wise that had a lot of interesting strings attached. And, that really could have been a big deal. And it sounds like Jeff is a relationships kind of guy. He really loves love and like he really wants to be in something serious, to the point that he would say yes to some relationships that maybe other people will be like, oh, you have a kid, like that's not my jam, or and he's like, no, that doesn't scare me away. Like I'm looking for that. And I don't think that's codependent. I think there's a lot of people that are just relationship oriented. They're not, and that's another thing too. I think if you're a woman out in the market and you're dating around, I think a lot of, and I don't know, this is all just Jim throwing bullshit against the wall like usual. But like,
Sexist.
thank you, Whitney. Thank you. But I think
This is not what makes Jim sexist.
yeah. That's all the weird shit I write on
All
the
the
internet.
other
man.
stuff.
It's the things I write on the incel boards.
Yeah.
That's what makes Jim sexist. But like, I think that there's a lot of women that when they're dating guys, if a guy comes off as overeager or like interested in a relationship, it's like an alarm of some kind. It's like, ooh, what's going on? And that's tricky as a guy because like I think you have to like hide your cards a little bit and seem kind of not interested in that. But if you really are, then at some point you also need to reveal that. I think sometimes this is a group of guys that can have a hard time kind of finding how they're supposed to present themselves.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I feel like the later you get, and this is obviously not from personal experience, but more like friends of mine in their mid to late 30s who are dating. I feel like what they are looking for is someone to kind of show their cards
Come out
more.
with it.
They're like, I don't want to fuck around.
Right.
Like,
That's kind of where I was at.
Yeah.
After, dating for a couple years, it was kind of that point where I'm just like, I don't want to play the games. Like, all cards on the table. I will be completely transparent. Here's where I'm at.
yeah.
Are you down for this? If
Does
not,
this look
cool.
okay?
Then
Yeah.
we'll just move on. No hard feelings. We don't have to go any further. And it's just a lot easier to take that approach, I think. My advice to Jeff would be to just be genuine. If these are the things you're thinking, cool, that's fine. Just make sure you're kind of taking it slow.
Right.
And just don't be in a rush.
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, there's such a thing as oversharing. I mean, you can think all of these things. You can even say all of these things.
Right.
But it is, and part of it is how you say it.
Yeah.
If you are, think of it as if you meet somebody new, you start a relationship with somebody new, and you want to have a frank and open and honest discussion with them about sexual boundaries.
Right.
You wouldn't just on the first date be like, is it cool if I hook a couple of jumper cables up to your nipples?
Yeah.
And then we just proceed straight to butt stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I've drawn a graph.
Yeah,
if that helps.
Yeah, like you would.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a tactness.
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
That's
where it's
it.
tactfulness.
Yeah,
So
you don't jump right into it. You say, so what's your view of car batteries?
That's it.
Are you?
Yeah. How many jumper cables do you have?
To answer your question, Jacob, yes, it is okay.
Absolutely.
Do you have a home set of jumper cables or just some in your trunk?
Yeah.
Junk in the trunk.
That's it. I mean, really though, this is kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
It is like, I'd like to have children one day.
Right.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't think
That's a fine question to ask.
Yeah.
But then if you follow that up with 8 more questions of the same magnitude in the first 5
should we
minutes of
name them?
conversation, that's it. Now you're getting into that area where it's like, oh, this is getting a little awkward.
Yeah.
Which
And not even awkward, just a lot.
Yeah. One of the questions that was asked too was just like, what are some things people do that are codependent so I can understand codependency better? And I just happen to have the Facing Codependence book at my house when Nick sent this out. I was like, you know what? Let me go poke
What
around
book
in
is
there. By Pia Melody.
Oh, yeah.
Facing Codependence.
And you were able to read that book by
Okay.
yourself?
Yeah.
I haven't read it. I haven't read it, Jacob.
Good one.
No.
Yep.
She reads it for the
No,
articles.
I haven't read it since Peter hasn't read it yet. No, I'm just kidding.
Nice.
I have to wait for him.
Yeah. I want to read his notes in the margins.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to know what he thinks first. But some of the things that she mentions in this book are like primary symptoms of codependence. So not exactly all of these, but these can be signs of it, are things, Jim's already mentioned some of them, but like a low or non-existent self-esteem, being too vulnerable, bad in quotes, bad or rebellious, too dependent, or like chaotic. And I see like the being too vulnerable as being like oversharing is
Right.
kind of a term, like just
Right.
it's the first date and you're like
Yeah.
telling them all about your trauma from growing
Yeah.
up, and it's like,
You've given me way too much power over you too quickly.
yes, like
And
look,
I'm
what do you
uncomfortable
think?
with it. Right.
And the other side of that is being arrogant or grandiose in
Mm.
your stance, being invulnerable, good or perfect. I thought that one was interesting because it's like, if I'm perfect, then I have the next thing, which is being like anti-dependent or needless or wantless. Look, I have no needs. No, whatever you want to do. Where do you want to eat? No,
Right.
I don't care. Wherever you
Yeah.
want. It's like, oh, and I know we kind of
Yeah.
joke about that, but if that happens every single time you're going to eat whatever you want, that's a big deal. And last, being controlling. So
Yeah.
that's kind of some things that Pia
I like
Melody wrote
that.
about.
Good book, by the way.
It is.
Yeah. Also, if you're out there and you do relate to being codependent, and this is something you've looked into, and you feel like it's something you struggle with, there is a group called Codependence Anonymous.
There is. I learned that
Coda.
in this book
Yeah,
too.
Coda. And so Codependence Anonymous is, by the way, a really great group. They apply kind of their version of a 12-step to holding each other accountable, to breaking their view of addiction, in a sense, their addiction to needing the approval of others and being people pleasers and finding their own voice and often standing up for themselves. Because there's many different flavors of codependence. It isn't
Yes.
always just the doormat human.
That's why it's so tricky.
It is, and especially what Jeff mentioned, that his mother is is married to an alcoholic, this is something, if you ever go to Al-Anon or Nar-Anon, which are 12-step support groups for friends and family of alcoholics, that is something that is always being talked about, is like codependence as something that we tend to develop, like in our relationships with those people, because we try to fix them, or we try to contain them, or we try to guide them, and we blame ourselves for their behaviors instead of like letting them experience their own consequences and like not feeling responsible for that. So it's a whole thing. Yeah. But Mom, before we wrap, do you have any thoughts on codependence? And don't say I am.
Relationships.
And I'll be like, well,
other than
I have a child who's
issues.
codependent, but he's working on it.
No, I took it differently when you were reading it, and he was saying when he would meet a woman, he would say something in his head. I took it as coming out of a long-term relationship, which he was, and being into therapy. Maybe he was asking himself questions to talk himself out of that person.
Okay. Yeah,
So-
kind of vetting the relationship.
Yeah, like I'm not, you
Or these
know,
breakers.
right? Yeah. And then I took codependency, like if you were talking about his mother with the alcoholic father. You said people pleasers. I can see the woman as not codependent, and I understand it's a big, area, but maybe we're just trying to take the path of least resistance because this person is an alcoholic and I have to think about my family.
Right.
So I'm not codependent. I'm thinking smartly.
Right. It's just containing the problem.
Right. So
but
I
you
took
keep the relationship.
I took those things out of it. But I see all of your point of view.
Well,
I just took it differently.
I like your point because I think, again, it really opens up to this doesn't have to be an oversimplified thing of Jeff or anybody is codependent.
Yep.
It allows us to say, let's paint with all the colors here and let's see the complexity of this, that any one of your behaviors, Jeff, could just be situational or interesting to you based on where you're at in life, as Nick pointed out, coming off of a breakup, or as Mom pointed out, you just being thoughtful after a human who's been through a tough time. You're trying to find a good match. Or as Whitney said, maybe you're just a sexist.
Yeah.
It could be any of those things. That's what I heard Whitney say.
It could be all of those things.
It could be all those things. But, I really
Jim.
like
You were
this
the
question. Was it me? That's fair. But I really love this question. And if you're out there and if it's something that you've struggled with, just be very mindful about it. And if you're out there, be careful not to weaponize that word codependency. One of the things we're really against on this show is weaponizing mental health language. And a lot of people put codependency in this box of like it's mental healthy when they want it to be, and then it's not when I get angry at them.
Yeah.
And I just think it just is. So maybe just don't do that.
Just keep it internal. Like maybe just evaluate yourself. Do I feel this way or not? And everyone else's issues are their own issues. And that kind of irked me about his letter to this other new woman he was dating, being like, you sound codependent. And I don't like that. I was like,
come on.
Sounds like you're projecting your own issues. I'll
Yeah,
re-therapize
bitch.
you.
Yeah, that's right. Get her, Whitney.
Back off my Jeff.
Yeah.
That's you leave
Tell
Jeffy
her that,
alone.
Jeff. Okay.
Nobody puts Jeffy in a corner.
Exactly.
Anyway, you're better off without that bitch, Jeff.
Ew.
You just hang with your buddies at Pod Therapy, all right? We don't think you're codependent. We like you just fine. Keep hanging out with us and keep sending us those letters. And remember, we might not read them, but we like you.
It's like gambling.
You can hang out with us. That's right. It's a Pod Therapy roulette. Maybe I'll send in a letter about something really serious in my life.
No,
and
it's
maybe they'll read it.
What do they call that? A variable interval schedule of reinforcement.
Shut up, you
Oh my
nerd.
gosh, it is.
Roulette.
See, she knows what I'm talking about.
Wow.
Does not. You just sounded really confident when
Yes.
you said it. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about helping my ADHD niece. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Robert Browning Jr. Mint, Kayla Lansbury, Kevin Chamberlain, Ben Stanley, Adam Hathaway, Dan Martin, Lib, and
damn
Heyo. If you would like to sponsor the show, become a therapy producer at patreon.com/therapy.
Jim, your beard is so luscious now
Thank
that it's
you.
been brushed out.
Now
by
that
the
it's been
comb.
brushed with a switchblade. Yeah, I know.
This year...
My mom's in a biker gang. We'll get to that soon.
Oh, well, we can pause the trivia.
Yeah. Is it biker gang trivia?
If there's anything I know
It is
about
now.
Jim, it's going to be less interesting than he makes it sound.
Yeah.
Let's
Oh,
move forward
Troy,
with trivia.
thank you.
Good
Yeah.
point. Good point. This year marks the 60th anniversary of the JFK assassination.
Oh, shit. We're going to crack it
Congratulations.
right now. Let's
So
do
it's
it.
time for JFK
Solved.
trivia.
Are we doing JFK conspiracy trivia?
No.
What do the
grassy
initials
knoll.
JFK stand for?
Shit, I honestly don't know.
We're starting off easy, and they're going to get more complicated.
Oh, man.
This question's easier than that one.
No. boy.
In what year was JFK assassinated?
Oh, Jesus.
You already have all the information you need to answer this question.
What? Was he not assassinated?
What year was JFK assassinated?
We have all the information we need.
Uh-huh.
Yes, you know the current year. You know it's the 60th
yeah.
anniversary.
There you
So
go.
whoever can subtract those two numbers can get this right. I'm so
1963.
confident.
No, wait.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
really funny.
Good.
I knew
All
it
right.
was 2 years before I was born, so hey.
Wow.
Very good.
Woo, go
Very
Mom.
good.
Yay. Mom off to a great
I
lead.
answered mine. I'm done.
Yeah.
This is
Tap out.
it's the first to buzz in.
No.
In what year? I'm sorry. In what city was JFK?
Buzz. Whitney.
Dallas, Texas.
Correct.
You seem really weirdly proud of that, Whitney.
Yep,
You
I am.
Take it down a notch.
Last one for this round of commercials. Air Force One landed at Love Field in Dallas, Texas, around 11:30 a.m. on the morning of November 22nd, 1963. From what city did they depart?
Well, they didn't depart
but-
because he died.
No, that's where they landed. Where did they
I'm-
depart from?
Oh, where
I'm
did they
gonna
fly into Dallas from?
Yes.
Oh. I was hearing that weird.
What?
Buzz.
DC?
DC?
No.
Okay.
No.
Illinois.
No.
Not a city.
I know. I was going to be like Florida.
That's
Where he gets it.
Don't let him push you around.
Do you hear them?
Newark.
Yeah, I do. I'm going to
I'm
get
gonna
out my
buzz.
comb.
I'm going to buzz Newark.
Somebody's about to get
No.
rushed.
Dang it.
It's a city that she.
Yes.
So where did JFK fly into Dallas from?
Yes.
Yeah.
New York
That's a
City.
weird thing to ask, man. I don't
So
know.
I said
I mean, it's America, so Houston.
Ooh, that's a good guess.
You're closer than you think.
That's a
San
city.
Antonio.
It is a
Take
city.
the points. Winner.
Oh, because it's a city.
They flew in from Fort Worth.
Oh.
Oh.
How?
Yeah, it was a 13-minute flight.
What
Weird.
airport?
They just flew
the Air
from
Force Base.
DFW.
The Air Force Base.
Oh,
that
I
makes
was like,
sense.
DFW's in Irving.
So
I
because
thought,
they were
or
doing,
Louisville.
he was running for re-election. So
Okay.
he was doing a run through Texas
Right.
because he wanted to win Texas.
Okay.
And so they flew. They were in, I think, San Antonio
Mm-hmm.
that night. The night before, then they flew to
I was almost got San Antonio.
Fort Worth.
Wow.
Okay.
He spoke at Fort Worth, and they flew from Fort Worth to
I mean,
Dallas.
Fort Worth to Dallas is like a
Yeah.
45-minute drive.
Yeah,
that
it's
is
a
so
13-minute
funny.
flight.
With traffic.
with traffic,
Yeah.
maybe an hour. Yeah.
Jeez. Okay.
There you go.
There you go. The more
All
you know.
right.
So wait, where are the points? Mom's got
I
one.
got a point.
Bat Mom and Whitney both have a point.
Woo!
All right.
Latest. Up top.
Knock off your feminist bullshit.
Yes.
All right. Helping my ADHD niece from Patty G. Hi, all. Neurotypical-ish auntie. Looking for some advice to help my niece thrive in kind of a complicated situation. She has a lot of the classic inattentive ADHD symptoms. Constantly drifting off, loses things immediately, rarely responds the first 2 or 3 times you try to get her attention, pretty disorganized. You can run down the whole list. It's gotten more intense as she's grown up, especially as she's transitioning from a no homework elementary school to a more traditional junior high this year. ADHD runs in our family, so we're pretty familiar with it and it shouldn't be a big deal. Except, my sister's abusive ex-husband used his ADHD as a cudgel to excuse everything under the sun and attacked her constantly for not doing enough to support him and fix his stupid mistakes. She's understandably dealing with a lot of trauma thanks to a decade of his bullshit. She's a wonderful mom in so many ways. She's compassionate, empathetic, patient, supportive, and completely shuts down around anything that comes near her triggers, including ADHD. And she absolutely will not touch the idea that my niece have it too. We've talked around the problem in the past, and she's mentioned refusing to get any of her kids evaluated because their dad will have to be informed, and inevitably he'll use that diagnosis or non-diagnosis as a weapon against her family and her parenting. The asshole still gets the kids over school breaks. She's been in and out of therapy when she can afford it, but the ADHD trauma is at the bottom of the list of things she needs help coping with, and honestly, just a specific branch of the bigger picture there. How can I best support my niece here? I've gotten majorly shut down when I've tried to bring this up before. And while I hope my sister can eventually do the work in therapy, I can't force her into it, and I want to help my niece in the short term. I feel like I'll have the best chance if I avoid the term ADHD and just try to help my niece build the skills to work with and around her brain. But where do I find those? Where do I start? Is it enough to help with her homework and support her and suggest new ways to do things? This kid is amazing and she deserves the world and doesn't understand why she's struggling. I don't care if she gets a capital D diagnosis, and I'm not looking for advice on how to get her one. I just see a lot of correlation in the symptoms, and I think she would benefit from learning similar coping strategies as someone with ADHD, except without calling it that. Thanks, guys. Love the podcast. I wish I could sit my sister down with your 6 hours of ADHD seminar, but somehow I think that would make things worse. Thanks, Patty.
Huh.
Weird. I don't know where you're going with that, Pat. But...
So in answer to the last question, I think that Pat posed, is it enough to help with the homework and all that stuff? My answer would be it might have to be.
Yeah.
Like that might just have to be enough for now.
Yeah.
Well, I was kind of thinking too, like there's resources at the school, and I'm not sure how much pull an aunt has.
Right.
But the school is equipped to deal with this.
Will the school deal with it if there's no diagnosis?
Yeah.
Well, but the school has school psychologists. I mean, I don't know if the school necessarily can make that diagnosis if they have a mental health professional on staff. Probably not.
No.
But I don't know. Does the school need a diagnosis from a provider to be able to step in?
I like where you're going with this.
Because, I mean, even just like an individual education plan doesn't require a diagnosis.
Is there a school counselor or somebody like that you could speak to just try to come up with something like that?
Yeah.
So to clarify some terms for those who don't know some of these jobs, a school counselor is usually just kind of like a mental health professional. A lot of times, though, they're not a licensed mental health professional. Their job is really more like de-escalation.
The school counselors when I was in school had nothing at all to do with mental health.
Yeah,
No.
they just
They
did your
were more
schedule.
like-
It is
and
a
they
profession.
helped you kind of prepare for college.
Navigation,
Right.
Yeah,
That's it.
It is a profession unto itself,
And
it is
audio
mental
engineering
health
on the
and
side.
audio engineering. It is mental health adjacent, but no, it's not meant to deal with diagnosis. It doesn't diagnose. A school psychologist, as Nick was pointing out, is confusing to a lot of people because they hear psychologist, they think, oh, that's. So a school psychologist is also not a clinical mental health professional. They diagnose learning disorders, and they also help design individualized education plans, which are called IEPs. And then your special ed department will usually utilize those plans if some of their services are needed, or those plans will just guide your students' regular teachers to just give them some extra things. So it might be like this student is going to get extra time on assignments, or this student is going to be treated a certain way when we remind them of assignments, because we know that they have some exhibited qualities that require some extra help. So that can all happen, and none of that can, like Nick said, touch the diagnosis of ADHD. None of those professionals would diagnose ADHD. They may say that something reminds them of ADHD or whatever.
Or they can suggest going to get testing.
They can. And so I believe you do not need a diagnosis to get an IEP. That is, I don't just believe it. It is true. You do not need a diagnosis to get an IEP because educational plans are different than mental illnesses.
And they're based on behavior, or like your educational
They are
needs.
based on behavioral needs, right, in education. And so, like, yeah, if a professional, like a school psychologist did a full assessment and determined that a child had a particular learning disorder, which is in the DSM-5, but, I don't know that we really consider them mental illnesses, but they are, developmental things. Yeah, it's a developmental disorder. They can diagnose that, but it's only related to education. And so I would say that, Patty, that would be one of the first things I'd really want you to encourage your sister to do, because your sister can go to the middle school special ed department and just take a meeting with a special ed teacher or the school psychologist and just learn about what the options are. And they will explain, this has nothing to do with ADHD. We will not utter those words around your kid. They will not be labeled with that. Yes, dad will be notified, but notified the way the teacher notifies dad whenever there's a missing assignment.
Well, it also sounds like mom's displeasure with the term
Yeah.
You know, so it's not just the kid hearing it or the dad hearing it. It sounds like mom doesn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Mom
too.
doesn't want to get into it either. And the good news is you can drive around the whole thing and kind of go where Patty's going, which I love your advice about the school is equipped with some resources to deal with that.
And I think individually, you know, dealing with her, I think, you know, just being patient and understanding what ADHD is, you know, and I think that can go a long way. Having a good relationship with your niece, building that rapport with her, so she has somebody that she can talk to and, you know, ask questions. And then, you know, I was thinking too, like talking to your sister about the ex. You know, it sounds like he had some behaviors that were problematic. He wants to say that that's part of the ADHD. Sounds like you and your sister both agree that he was an asshole. So maybe it was the asshole part making those decisions and not necessarily the ADHD. You know?
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. In a moment, I want to talk a little bit about how ADHD, more than a lot of other things I've seen, does get weaponized to excuse behaviors. And that's problematic. And I want to go deeper into that. But just real quick, Patty, about your niece. One of the things with young people that are dealing with ADHD, and Whitney, you've probably worked with lots of ADHD just in the foster care system, and we see tons of it.
Yeah.
But like whenever I'm working with somebody that seems to have those qualities, I personally don't give a shit about the diagnosis. If anything, I usually don't want to give them those 4 letters because I think it's a distraction. Because it depends on what kind of cultural bump they find. But on one hand, they'll find it as this cover-all excuse that now it tells them why they're blonde. It tells them everything about them. Oh, do you like, you know, this kind of movie? That's an ADHD thing. Oh, do you like this kind of music? That's an ADHD thing. Do you like, you know, pepperoni pizza? That's it. And
I'm
it's
also
just
a
ridiculous.
Capricorn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a fucking zodiac. It's so dumb. And so I dislike those 4 letters becoming the catch-all.
Such
Or
an Aries
an
thing to
excuse. Yeah, there you go. Nice.
The fact that you know I'm an Aries.
Yeah.
I think
Oh,
that
I know
really
you're an
says
Aries.
everything.
I know you're
Saying you're telling on yourself, I
Yeah.
think.
I think-
You're making jokes about yourself. But like, I don't like those letters for kids because I do think it often becomes a distraction. I think it can also cause them to describe, like, and also sometimes there's this movement right now, and I talk about this in my 6-hour deep dive, which are broken into 1.5-hour chunks about different topics.
Once
Anyway.
you
pretty
explain
long.
that, I gave
Thank
you a
you,
little
Whitney.
more slack on the
Thank
6-hour
you, Whitney.
ADHD.
It was Jacob who ruined the whole
You
series
can take
after
the
I
break.
finished it by
You
pointing
can
out
take
it
your
was
break.
6 hours.
Yeah, if you have
I didn't say
ADHD.
anything about it. I just
don't-
pointed out a fact about it.
Yeah.
Said it in a way that was biasing the audience against it. Now people don't listen to it. Anyway,
Yeah, that's why.
that's
Yeah.
what it was.
They
That's
they
the reason.
That's how I sleep at night, bud. That's all my failures. Fucking Jacob.
Jacob.
I didn't win Best Las Vegas again. Goddamn Jacob.
He phrased something weird.
He fucked me again. But like with ADHD, I also don't like teenagers or anybody, like the ex-husband did, excusing all things they are doing as, well, that is an ADHD quality. That is unhealthy because you are now an unfalsifiable human being. You have now reached the ceiling. You cannot change. You cannot grow. You cannot be challenged. You are who you are because your brain is a thing, and that's it. And there's so many deep flaws about all of that understanding. Even that ADHD is a permanent thing is a misunderstanding. 50% of all ADHD reaches remission before you reach adulthood. So, and that's just science, just clinical data. It's not the way we are culturally talking about ADHD because we talk about it like being white, black, blonde, or brunette. Like it's a quality, a genetic trait. It's the way a brain works. That is not accurate. So I dislike the diagnosis for all those reasons. But when I'm treating a young person that has attentive or distracted, hyperactive, or inattentive type, like Patty said, I'm really just interested in treating the behaviors.
Yeah.
What is the behavior?
I mean, if I was in Patty's situation and we were talking about this, you know, in front of my sister and my niece, I wouldn't even use ADHD.
Yep.
I would
Scrub
just
it.
say has attention problems
Yeah, or just
struggles with attention.
tell me what's been going on in
Or-
class.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
point
just,
out literal
you know,
behavior. It
That's
takes
it.
you 3 hours
Yeah.
to do a homework sheet that your teacher told
Yeah.
you should take 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That's a
Because you'll
thing.
also
Yeah.
find exceptions.
Or
to
is
that
Let's
it?
figure
rule.
something out.
Right. What classes do you notice this in? Oh, math, science.
All of them.
Yeah, they might try. Okay, but you seem to do your English one the other day. Oh, well, I like writing
like
stories.
English.
Okay, cool. All right, that's interesting, right?
Yeah.
So, like, again, we don't even have to talk about inattentive, big, broad stroke clinical language. We can just micro this down to, sounds like you really struggle with your math homeworks. Yeah, I do. Do you also struggle with keeping track of what's due and when it's due? Yeah, I do. Okay, so if you don't have a natural interest in it, you kind of lose track that it even exists, and then all of a sudden you're really surprised by it. I am. Is that really discouraging? It is. Does that make you feel bad? It does. Great. Let's start learning organizational
narrated
skills.
their whole life for them.
That's it. We're just breaking it down, and then we're teaching them interventions that honestly ADHD people have to learn too. And look, in today's day and age, you can get away with a lot of success while dealing with ADHD symptoms without medication because we have robots. We have robots that will like pop in your pocket every 5 minutes and be like, hey, don't forget to do this assignment. You just have to teach yourself how to give that robot information up front and remind it, because you have to have studied yourself so well that you know what you need to be successful. That's
kind of like
the
movie Memento.
Yes.
Right, where
you have to tattoo
he kind of creates
all your
his
assignments on your body.
His own network for his,
math quiz Wednesday above the right nipple.
Jim's got a great tattoo parlor to go to.
Yeah, I can recommend one.
Yeah.
So you've worked with a lot of young people.
Yeah.
And you've seen this a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know what your opinions are on how heavy that ADHD language can be if we officially christen them that. Sometimes that's freeing for them to hear that and go, oh, so I'm not a broken, bad person. I'm not a slouch. I'm not, a failure. I'm lazy. There's a thing about me that's a characteristic.
Yeah.
Some kids need that because then it gives them permission to like work on it.
Yeah, it can be very challenging because on one hand I've seen like kids that were diagnosed that got the help, I'm using help in quotes, they needed because maybe they did go to doctors and they took medication.
Right.
And they kind of got jaded by that. And so then they entered into adulthood and were like, oh, I don't ever want to take that ADHD medicine again. I had to because I was in school and I felt weird on it. And now I don't want to, even though they might need it to just like function in society at times. And then I see the flip side where a friend of mine recently who as an adult was kind of diagnosed with ADHD, but her daughter and her would sit at the table for homework, and her daughter would be in tears, who's like 6, because it would take her forever to do her homework. And she'd feel like a failure. The mom's losing her patience because the mom was undiagnosed ADHD, couldn't sit with her. And she replied to me when we were talking about it recently that her mom had the patience to sit with her for 3 hours at the table and do homework. Not every parent does, especially if you're an adult with undiagnosed ADHD.
I've got 2 parents that don't have ADHD, and I'm damn sure they didn't have the patience to sit with me for 3 hours.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't do your homework
with you people for 3 hours.
But you wouldn't do your homework. Then what if you were failing? Would your parents eventually sit with you for 3 hours if you were failing all your classes?
I mean, my mom was a teacher, so yeah.
There we go. She didn't want to. She did it all day.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't get paid to teach you, boy.
So
learn from somebody else.
I know this friend of mine, she just recently started medication for ADHD and sees a therapist. And she's like, it's life-changing. She tells me, she'll send me random things throughout the day. It's still there. It doesn't cure everything. I get random memes throughout the day of like, I had no idea that this is how other people are functioning. And it's so enlightening for her now. And so
it is.
I don't know. It really depends on the person, and it depends on where you're at and what your needs are and what your family situation is, because all of those things play a part. Because some people just don't have the time. If you're a single parent, you don't have time to sit down with your kid for 3 hours in the evening, or you have other kids, or you're exhausted. And it can be really challenging.
All right, Mom.
Yeah.
Just go.
With your ADHD, I'm just kidding.
Oh, no. She's going to tell about how she had me assessed for ADHD.
Okay.
Oh!
So I had this child.
Right into the mic, Mom. Pull that mic in close.
We won't name names.
Yeah.
We don't want to. It could have been anybody.
50.
Okay. So my child, I got a call from. He was in 4th grade, but he was in a 5th grade class, and his teacher did not like him.
He just wandered in.
Yeah, that was symptom number 1 of the ADHD.
Wandering around.
Who are you, kid? Huh?
Come pick up your son.
I don't know. Your door was pretty.
No, Jacob, my boy was brilliant.
There's that. Get him, Mom.
Brush
his beard with this comb.
That use of the word was really stood out there.
Yeah, when did he lose that?
He still is brilliant.
Geography's overrated, you idiots.
Yeah.
You don't need it. The pilot knows where he's going.
You can look that stuff up.
Yeah, you can get him, Mom.
He needs room in that big
Yeah,
beautiful
that's
brain.
what it is.
Jim chooses
Einstein
not
didn't
to
know
look
his
it
phone
up,
number.
but he could.
Yeah, go on about how smart I was as a kid. They need to hear more about that.
He was a fourth grader, but he was in a fifth grade class, and his teacher was just always at odds with him. And she called me one day and she said, I do not like him, and he is annoying. Okay, now you've pissed me off.
Jim?
Wow.
You're like, oh,
What a
hell
bitch.
no.
Wait a
Guess
minute, Miss
who's seen my
Gallagher
mom
said
so
that?
far?
Perfect child.
Miss
No,
Gallagher didn't like me.
the bitchy lady.
You never told me this.
No, it was that mean lady.
Oh, Miss Kinsler?
Yeah.
Oh, she was a bitch.
Yeah.
Also, I was just in a fifth grade class. I was in fifth grade.
Oh, were you in fifth grade?
The year before, I was in a fourth, fifth combo class.
Oh, that's right. Fourth, fifth.
Which
combo.
they did allow advanced fourth graders to be in.
And he was
But I was still
advanced.
in my normal
Somehow
grade.
he seems less brilliant.
I'm very humble, okay?
Yes, he
I
is
told
humble.
myself
Yeah, he did.
I give away. But Kinsler was a bitch. Go
Yes,
on.
she was.
She was
Jim
terrible.
is as
So-
brilliant as he is understated.
So,
This was also the year I got arrested for illegal gambling, but go on.
so she was upset because if they did math, Jimmy did it without showing his work. He would have the answer and wouldn't show his work, and I would be like,
Is
and
the answer
your
right?"
problem? Because his answers were right, but she would say he has to show his work. And then he would entertain the class. He wouldn't stay in his seat. And then she told me, I think he is ADD. Well, I didn't know what that was. So she
I think
recommended.
he's ugly, too.
You just said he couldn't add or subtract. I'm
ADD.
really confused.
No, so she recommended.
Also, look at this ridiculous mustache.
Fifth grade.
His mustache in fifth
Say
grade
that
was
to my Switch.
his mustache in fifth grade was as good as his mustache
Oh,
is
this
now.
thing smells like sage. That's weird.
Well, they
I
had
was
sage
expecting
in the
a different
store,
word
yeah.
there.
Anyway,
So, this guidance counselor of the school recommended a child psychologist. We went and they did a bunch of testing, and he told me he was ADD. They wanted to put him on Ritalin, and he would have to go to the office every day at a certain time, and they'd have to watch him take the pill. I never
Rectally.
got it filled because I was like, okay, I'm not going to have my child put a label put on him where you're going to take care of it by medication. They didn't have Google back then, so I went to the library and checked out books. I went to the bookstore, bought books on what it was. And at that same time in our home life, I was going crazy because if you told him to do something, he wouldn't do it, or he would forget to do it, or he would do something entirely different. And I would think he was being rebellious. When I started reading the book, I felt like the worst mother in the world because I would be like, Jimmy, go upstairs and bring down the trash can in the bathroom. He would go upstairs
And never come back.
No, he would come to the railing and he'd say, what was I supposed to do? Or he would do something totally different. And I would think, what's wrong with this child?
Yeah.
Well, when I started
So much.
reading it,
That was the first
Yeah.
time. That was
when
not
I
the
started
last.
reading it, I realized I felt horrible for my child having to go through this.
Yeah.
And he was not being rebellious. And one of the things with Jimmy that I learned, and I later had to teach his wife when he got married, is that
He gets lost easily.
When-
He won us
when
into
you-
fifth grade classrooms.
Gotta remind him.
I bet that's just another
Memento.
reason that it's really easy to be married to Jim. Having your mother-in-law explain things about your husband.
If you turn to page 32 in that PDF,
I bet that
sent you,
makes things easier.
Refer to page 50. So
I've solved this problem.
if I wanted to tell him to do something and not go crazy, I would need to touch him. It breaks their focus because your brain is popping all over the place. So if I would touch him and I'd say, Jimmy, I need you to go upstairs and bring the trash can down from the bathroom, then you're supposed to mirror it. What did I say? And then they mirror it back. Then you let go. And it was like a magic trick. It worked.
Really?
Nice. Life hack.
He was
I'm just learning this now about.
Get your hand off my thigh, Nick.
yes.
My name's Whitney.
It's not how this works. Wow, this table's really big. A lot of people's hands on my thighs.
So anyway, that worked wonders, and it changed our life. When he got into high school and he was in advanced classes, they did a lot of books where they would have to read the book and then write reports on it. And he came to me at one point and he said, Mom, I can't remember. I can't get past the first paragraph. I'm reading it over and over and over, and I don't know what it said. Well, they didn't, back in the 60s and 70s when I was in school, they didn't diagnose you with that.
Yeah.
Instead, I had a reading teacher come and take me every week because my report card always said, Tracy does not comprehend what she reads.
Wow.
And I would read it, and my mind would be thinking this,
Yeah.
this, and I'd never understand. And I thought something was wrong.
Yeah.
Well, when I realized that that's what my child was going through, then the books suggested we make it easier for him. So we got the books on tape. So
Son of a bitch. That's why you did that?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And so he would listen to the book and follow along
Yes.
in the book.
I have a
And he
client who
was
does
You
that.
got that from an ADD book?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So your mother worked hard to make sure you.
You know, I
That
didn't
does say a
realize
lot,
that
to be
you were
honest.
this cool. I
and
did not know.
and he never took medicine. And look
Next
how
time, fly her on
brilliant-
Southwest.
Yeah,
Thank
really.
her.
I think I deserve
Christ.
Southwest.
Still puts her
Get
in
off
spirit.
my ass.
I deserve water.
my
All she's
God.
done for you.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm the bad guy.
Hey, behind every brilliant young man
Yeah.
is an even more brilliant mother.
Honestly.
Yes.
I would
That
agree.
was-
Yeah.
I would agree.
Wow, Mom, that was a
Yes.
game
Yes.
changer for me.
Yes, it
Because I
was.
remember in high school, because I
Yes.
remember I was trying to read Frankenstein.
Yes.
And I was like, fuck, this sucks, and I can't do it. And then one day you took me to Borders, and it was
Borders.
like $50 for like
Yep.
the CD set, because it was like
Yep.
10 CDs.
Yeah.
And I remember you got them for me, got me a little Walkman. And
Yes.
I loved it. I read the whole, I was like, this is amazing. And like I wrote essays on it, and I did fine.
And a lot of times I'd have to get in advance the list of books that they were going to be reading because some of them were really hard to find on tape.
yeah.
So I was always like
Especially
ahead
back
of
then.
the game. Yeah.
Napster.
So,
Yeah.
and then that just, he was a straight A student. This kid is
That's
brilliant.
crazy,
but that
man.
helped him focus more. And so it was about the person you're
That's really
talking
good
to.
advice.
It's about the aunt that's talking about her child, the niece.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to give you advice, those simple things you can do without anybody's permission. If you're going to spend time with your niece, just do some reading, do some research. You don't have to get in between the mom and dad. Do it yourself. The child deserves some type of help so that they realize that they can be just like any other child and not have to work so hard
Yeah.
at what they're looking
and you
at.
can kind of help from the sidelines.
Exactly.
Because those things you did were just very gentle little like things that just helped.
Yep.
Wow. A lot of shit just made sense.
Yeah.
Because you do that. To this day, you will reach over and touch my arm
Yes. Yep.
and then tell me to do something.
Yep.
Shit,
Jim,
for a long
raise your
time.
kids better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take notes.
Stop drinking. You're an alcoholic.
And
Jimmy, I
I
need you to pick up the bar tab tonight.
That's not how it works.
Oh, it's not like a
Not
Jedi
like
mind trick.
hypnosis. These are not the droids
like
you're
a-
looking for.
A genie. Just rub the arm.
All right. That was really good advice, Mom. Good job.
Yeah.
That went really well.
I think
Yeah.
I earned my way on a Delta flight with
Oh,
water next
no.
time.
That's-
Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Delta.
Yes.
I'm not a real
United?
doctor. I can't afford that.
You have the two
Oh,
I've got
jobs.
now-
Delta money.
Now you're not.
I'm good enough for a podcast,
No,
Nick.
you're
Yeah, I'll take the title on the podcast. I'll
You're-
take an
hold
honorific on our bullshit podcast.
you play fast and loose with that doctor title all the time until
Still
now.
it's Delta money. Bro, I ain't got Delta money. I'll tell you that right now. I do not have Delta money. I maybe have Southwest money. And that's after I get the credit card. Which Nick's
Maybe
right.
United.
I should
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, just get the Southwest credit card.
I think that's
Yeah.
fine. Does Southwest fly into Tampa?
Yes, I do.
All right, we'll be fine. This is really good advice,
Great
by the way.
advice,
That was
yeah.
really good
Yeah.
advice. And yeah, I like that. I like that. You can do things from the sidelines, even without a diagnosis. Don't even have to call it words. Because I remember as a kid, it was let slip to me that I might have ADD or ADHD. And I don't know if you told me. I don't know. I remember going to see that guy, and I remember you talking to me about we might do medicine, and maybe you were just preparing me because you were thinking about it, but like then it never got brought up again.
No, I refused.
Yeah,
No.
and then I remember the counselor sitting in my class and watching me, which I thought was weird, and sitting in the
always
locker
be
room
at
and
the
watching
back.
me, and at home watching.
Well,
me.
I just think that too many people are too quick to put a label on it and stick a pill in somebody's mouth when you have to realize what the child is going through and do your research to help. And there's just so many different ways to help.
Yeah.
It's very individualized.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, I could have had amphetamines. Thanks for stealing
Yeah.
those away from me, Mom. Who knows what I've been capable of? Like Brad Cooper and Limitless.
I know what I'm bringing next week instead of beer.
Truck full of hookers and a bowl of amphetamines.
Let's go. Good job, Mom. I think you won the game on that one.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about dealing with your spouse's friends. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Robert Brownie Jr., Mint, Kayla Lansbury, Kevin Chamberlain, Ben Stanley, Adam Hathaway, Dan Martin, Lib, and Heyo.
Heyo.
If you want to sponsor the show, become a therapy producer. Patreon.com/therapy.
Lee Harvey Oswald, final answer.
Oh,
Buzz.
this is gonna get way tougher.
Oh, shit.
All right,
Oh,
it's
no.
it's progressively more complicated.
See, no.
All right, 3 questions this time around. One other individual was shot in the motorcade.
Oh.
What was his name?
Oh, I don't
Shit.
know.
It's probably like a bodyguard or something, right?
Like
No.
the
It was
driver?
No.
Was it a
No.
senator?
No.
Was it a congressman?
It was the
No.
driver.
Was it his wife?
Nope.
Was it the driver?
Nope.
Was it the vice president?
Nope.
No, it wasn't the vice president.
I'm just
Was it Jackie O?
Nope.
No, she
Jackie?
wasn't
No,
shot.
she
I don't know,
caught
maybe
him.
her
No.
hand.
Jesus,
I don't
Whitney,
remember.
too soon. You're a monster.
Are you out?
I'm out.
I don't know.
I'm out.
Oh, the
Gotta wait for the. Are there options?
There are no options.
Oh, then yeah, I'm out.
Nope. You're Americans. You should know this shit.
Yeah.
fuck you.
I definitely knew this at
Oh,
one
hold
point.
on. Repeat the question really quick.
Okay. There was one other individual who was shot in the motorcade.
Oh, in the motor.
Oh, in
What
the
was his name?
motorcade, not the car.
Okay.
Okay. He was in the car.
He was in the
Oh,
car.
it was in the
Oh.
car.
So
Yeah.
Well, then who is
the
it?
shooter-
I can't think of his name.
I don't know his name.
There's
If I could think of his name, I would have already answered the
I
question.
will accept the position that
he was.
The
He had.
driver?
He was another.
The
he had a
secretary.
No, he was a political office.
He was.
All
It was another.
Oh.
It was another person with political office, and
It
I can't
was.
think of who
the
it was
senator.
was it a governor?
now.
I have
What
no idea.
Oh,
Mayor.
It's probably the governor.
was it the lieutenant governor of Texas?
No.
Oh, that was
all
such
right,
a
we've all
solid
guessed like
guess,
5
though.
guesses.
Yeah.
I think it was the attorney general.
It definitely wasn't the attorney general.
was Bobby
He
Kennedy.
got shot later.
And no.
I feel like I was
The attorney
right.
general got shot later.
I mean, in a sense, I was right.
Do you give up?
I want the attorney general of Texas.
The
Okay.
state attorney general.
You're wrong.
I give up.
You should have gone with what you had, the
Oh.
governor, because it wasn't the lieutenant governor, it was the
the
governor.
governor.
Just the straight
Damn
governor.
it.
It was John Connolly Jr., the governor of
there you
Texas.
go.
Did
Oh.
he die?
No, he didn't.
Okay.
He survived.
Wow.
Damn.
How many U.S. presidents were assassinated prior to JFK?
2.
Okay, that's your guess, 2?
You want to name them?
Listen,
can-
I said 2.
Yeah.
I asked
said.
if you wanted to name them.
No.
All right, we know it's Abe.
Jeez.
I know.
A
We
little
know
snippy
Abe.
over
We
there.
know Abe dies.
I'm gonna just guess one. I'm gonna be a basic.
I mean,
bitch.
a lot of them
Okay.
died. Assassinated? I think it's... I mean, Abe Lincoln was the first one because they didn't have a Secret Service at that point. Between Abe and JFK,
Was it? Oh.
was somebody else killed?
Well, who did Well, I'm not gonna ask that. I'm not gonna. Never mind.
Man.
Who
Okay,
did
need
Harry
answers.
S. Truman
I think
take
it's
over?
one.
Okay, you're saying 1.
Yeah, I
I
think
said
it's
Mom's
one.
saying 2.
I said 1.
I'm also 2.
3.
What?
Lincoln, Garfield,
Garfield.
who?
McKinley.
Shit.
Ah, shit.
Okay.
Yes. All right. Last one for this break.
Anybody win anything yet?
Wait, Jim, Mom,
No.
did you have Garfield or McKinley?
I am McKinley.
You had me. Oh, so between the two of us, we could have gotten
y'all
to
coulda
3.
said it out
See if
loud.
you guys would work
Ah.
together.
Yep.
All right. Jackie Kennedy's pink Chanel suit worn on the day of the assassination was never cleaned and currently lies in the National Archives. Closest without going over, what year did the Kennedy family say will be the earliest it could be viewed by the public?
Oh, it can't be viewed by the public.
Correct.
Oh,
Which
boy.
also good.
Yes. Fair.
It's a bloody dress.
Yeah.
We're not gonna fight that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Kennedys, I think,
It
are right on that.
exists. That's probably already pretty.
I'll guess 2063.
yeah.
Okay.
I
Okay,
think
so
we're in
100
that
years.
spot.
I'll say 100 years.
Never. Is that an option?
Closest without going over. I don't know how that would work for the game, but
I
let's
thought it
go
was a
with
trick
it.
question.
Go with it.
I'm going to take 150 years.
Okay.
I need a year.
Nope. No, thank you.
I'm going to
thank you.
go with
No, thank you.
I'm going to go
guessing
with
I'm wrong.
2050.
Okay.
2050. Okay. Closest without going over would be Jacob.
Yeah.
But you're still pretty far off.
Oh yeah.
2103.
Why is 2050 not closer?
Yeah. So 20.
Because that would be 2113, I believe.
2050 was the year she gave you.
No, she said 2050.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. 2013 would be 150 years, right?
Yeah, I'm off. I
No,
get
no.
it. I'm
Jim
out.
lost, but mom said 2050.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I said 20.
2063.
I said 20. 23 or 2063. Oh no, wait. No, I said 63.
Oh, then he is right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, Whitney.
I'm like, I'm lost.
Shut up, Whitney.
All of a sudden she opens her eyes. Wait, what?
Never.
Are we still doing this? This podcast
Who
over?
are
right.
you guys?
After 6 questions, Whitney, Mom, and Jacob all have a point.
Damn.
After 6 questions.
And guess what? They get
we
harder.
suck.
The South is still prevailing.
Oh, the South will rise again. Oh,
Hey, I'm just happy I got Garfield.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah, I'm impressed with that.
Thank you, Mom.
Garfield died?
Yeah.
I didn't
Too
know
much
he did
lasagna.
this. Oh.
That's why he hates Mondays.
Oh.
Today.
2 Garfield jokes back to back.
That's why he's not
Two
the
more
best in
than
the
was-
business for nothing, folks.
That's right. Jesus. Spouses friends from a Nana wife.
My spouse's friend won't stop making Garfield jokes.
Please make him stop.
Fuck that guy.
A Nana wife asks, "Hey, Pod Therapy, I feel like an asshole as I sit here writing this question, waiting for the baked goods in the oven to finish to head to these friends' house. My husband and I have a great relationship and are very supportive of each other. However, we don't have a lot of friend overlap. The friend who he hangs out with the most is the current issue. The first time I heard him talk about this guy was just over 2 years ago, complaining about him as a coworker. I was very surprised to hear about 6 months later that they were doing something together outside of work. Last year around this time, we went to a party at their house and I met his wife and kid. Very nice people, not my type, but that's about it. When my husband and I got in the car and he asked if the wife would be a new best friend, I tried to politely explain that we have nothing in common and I didn't really enjoy my time with them. After extensive conversations over multiple weeks, calm, thoughtful discussions, he still did not really understand why I was having an issue with the wives in his friend group, especially this one. Here's the thing. All these guys in the group have the same career, same hobbies. At this point, this lady's husband, my husband's friend, works for a different place where they still see each other at work and some issues have arisen, but that's a separate issue. I have multiple graduate degrees, have 2 professional careers in separate fields, am starting to teach at a college master's level, as well as volunteer, and am very active in my hobbies and sports. I'm a busy human, and this is taking away from the little free time I have. We also don't have kids yet. His friends' wives all are stay-at-home moms with little kids. None have even gone to college, which there's nothing wrong with that, nor careers or hobbies, especially the wife of his friend he spends the most time with. I have nothing in common with them outside of the fact that we are both women. I am so tired of hearing how bad pregnancy and childbirth are, and especially how she thinks I need to go about it when the time comes. I've tried for a year to find some joy in spending time with them. We do not even have cooking or baking in common. I do both, she does neither. Her husband tries to push us to hang out, spend time together, etc., which I manage to avoid most of the time. The problem is they are the nicest people ever, which also makes my husband not see why we can't be great friends. I'm at a loss. My husband supports my craziness, both time and support-wise, as well as financially at times. He gives me his all. I feel like the least I can do is make his friend and his wife happy on occasion. I just dread it and hate it. This lady also really wants to be my friend. I feel like an asshole that thinks I'm better than them or something, which is really not like me. What do I do? Should I say something? Should I say something? Though it didn't really help before? Refuse to hang out with stay-at-home moms for him to see the guys? Is there something I'm missing to relate on? Or do I just say, fuck it, it is what it is, and go drink alcohol? Thanks in advance, Anana wife. Pronouns are she and her.
That's what y'all would suggest, right? Like,
Yeah,
just go
get
drink
drunk.
alcohol.
That'll help. This
how
is
I
a
make
really
it through
good
this
question.
podcast.
That's so dismissive.
Sagittarius
I can't
of you.
believe
Oh, sorry. I thought
that
that's where
she
we were
would
going
say, "Can you grab me another one?"
Yeah.
Thank you. No, I'm fine.
Jim gets up.
Oh,
Jim
I
gets
thought
up.
you were really asking for a beer.
I kind of am, but
Yeah, I want one too.
All right,
It's cool.
yeah,
I'm gonna
all right,
go on a
Just
beer.
let it.
Fine.
Yeah.
But no, we would never suggest something like I haven't finished that one yet. Give that back. Give that. Okay, but I would never suggest that, Whitney.
Yeah.
So that's what you. I'm just repeating what you said to me last weekend when I was trying to put up with you guys.
No, I think.
drink nonstop on the show?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's
basically.
the thing. I get this because I totally get from the husband's perspective that like I want my spouse to be involved. These are my friends. It would be great if it all worked out, if they all got along, and he's got this picture in his mind, and I can't blame him for having that picture of like being able to go hang out together and all this.
Yeah.
It's also unfortunate, and I don't like that he pushes it so much, you know? And so it's really tough. There's not a really good answer for this one.
I feel like women get pigeonholed in this thing too.
I was just going to say this because what I was thinking about while you were reading it, Jim, was that Peter and I don't have a lot of overlap in friend groups. We have very different jobs and careers. And because of that, typically what will happen is in my friend group, I'll sometimes want Peter to like join me for like their spouses or whatnot. That's how we started hanging out with Nick and Lauren. I'm just kidding.
Okay, I'm glad we brought this
Yeah,
up.
the
because
elephant's
I was
finally
waiting,
out. There
I
it
was
goes.
waiting for this to come
All
up.
right, now we can get into
Now I
it.
really want to know how you feel.
Yeah.
No, Laura, if you're listening, y'all are like the only couple we can both hang out with. So, but what happens is I will ask him, but I think over years you kind of feel out. I mean, this is what I've done. You feel out your spouse, and you're like, who are the people that you think actually I think you would like spending time with, or you could get some value from, whether it's like chatting about something interesting or whatever. But over time, it's like probably once or twice a year, I can get Peter to like come out and hang out with another couple or like friend group where their spouses are there too, where I know Peter would never hang out with those people if
Right.
it weren't because of me. So I don't know. I'm putting a number on that once or twice a year. It sounds like your partner's trying to get you to hang out way more often, like every weekend, like Nick said. And that is so hard when he is just vibing so well with them and wants you to be a part of that. He, in his mind, he's like, this would be great for, the picture I have in my head. But, I mean, we just talked about codependency. Don't feel like you have to go hang
Right.
out just because you owe your husband, like, to be best friends with them.
Right.
Sure, maybe now and then, like, Peter will still go, again, once or twice a year. And he'll, like, sacrifice that. I'm saying that kind of loosely. But we do make sacrifices for our spouses and partners. But I think it depends on what your limit is. And if you're just like, I don't want to do that every weekend. You only get so much time on this earth.
Right.
Let's not spend it doing things you don't want to do. And every once in a while, we have to do things we don't want to do. But it doesn't have to be very often.
It's almost kind of like some negotiation of like, you have to understand I have nothing in common with this group. I support you. I want to be there. I want to do this, but I need there to be a limit to my obligation to do this.
Yeah, use me strategically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't try to just get, because I agree with both of you that it's an interesting thing, because I think that in the husband in this case, I can see for him where he's looking at it and going, I don't want every time that I want to see my friend to make it a boys thing. I don't always want to steal him from his family, and for him to hang out with me, he's got to clock out from his household and go get beers with me. I'm perfectly happy being at his home and watching a football game, but then I feel a little strange because I'm just the buddy. It would be nice if this was all of us, right? And I want that vibe, and I want it to feel comfortable, and they're very pleasant, and they like you an awful lot. Why can't we make this work? But I agree with you, Whitney, that you kind of do have to strategically agree that, like, look, I will be there for you. Like, you should give them a punch card. So, like, look, you can punch out 4. You get 4.
This
Okay,
what you
spend them
get.
quarterly.
Yeah.
Spend them in a week.
Yep.
They're yours, But once you're out, you're out. You don't get another one for a
I
year.
like the idea. I wouldn't actually do it.
No,
Okay.
I agree.
Only because then it does feel like I would, if Laura did that to me, I'd feel like I feel a little insulted.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas if she came to me and said like, look, I get overwhelmed in social situations.
Right. This helps.
It causes a lot of stress, so I can't always guarantee I'm going to do this. Right. So in my mind, I kind of think ahead like, okay, this is coming up. I want to do this. I'm going to use one here.
Right.
So I kind of create those punch cards myself without her having to identify that.
It's like an unspoken punch card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or what I'll get a lot is, do you really want me to go? And that's like Peter saying, I will, I don't want to, but then I don't want to take advantage of that. So it's like, well, then I have to evaluate. Do I really want him? Do I want to use that punch?
Yeah.
That punch in the card. Like,
yeah, there's value to it.
Yeah. And I get this. Like I've been on many, I call them adult play dates.
Okay.
Because
let's keep using that. That's the right language.
That's kind of what it is.
Yeah, that's 100%
I feel like Jacob
what it
has
is.
something he needs to say to this. And I don't know
I
what.
don't have anything.
No, but like
I did notice Jacob pulled out that pineapple real quick and put it on top of
It's
his
the
desk.
ice cream.
I think that's an invitation to a play date.
but I've been on those before where it's like I'm meeting, my partner's
Like
friend's
coworkers or
husband,
friends,
and so we have to like strike up a conversation like,
Yeah.
do you like golf? I like golf too. And then we have to find something, and it is awkward and uncomfortable at first.
Yeah. But I feel for women especially
Yes,
because especially when the writer said, look, one problem is that we are just cut from different cloths and we've chosen really different paths in life. And so we just kind of fundamentally have a bunch of differences.
Yeah.
Fine. But then you have this other interesting difference where all the other friends' wives are stay-at-home moms, and that is a culture.
Yeah,
that is a
that's
lifestyle. And yes, you get along famously with a bunch of other people that are just doing that, right? And I think there can be plenty of crossover because we all are humans with human stories and we can relate to each other. And just because one person has kids and one person doesn't mean that like they're not still, a nurturing maternal person and take interest in your kids. I'm like, oh, show me this. Yes, I want to see their art. Like, I just like kid art. Like, we're cool. And so
I call bullshit.
yeah, I think it
No
can
one
exist.
likes kid art.
How dare you, sir? How dare you? My daughter is a genius. I'll show you. But I think that you can relate. But like, I feel for women especially because I feel like women are put in this typecast by everybody where you are expected. And, as the woman on the show, I feel comfortable making these statements.
I'm like, let me hear it, Jim.
Yeah, let me just get it all
Let me
out
hear
there.
it.
I'm gonna take a deep breath on this one. Just really, you can do this, Jim.
He's not making eye contact.
It's gonna be fine. Yeah, I'm looking well away from Whitney.
If you could mansplain this for the rest,
I really want her
of
to
the
get it.
audience.
What's
I just really
your
want her to get
female
it.
experience
Look,
like?
I have a lot of female clients that do not have kids, that will not have kids,
Good out.
and they get pissed that they are constantly sort of expected to be in that conversation. And a lot of them get talked down to where another person will say to them, so when are you going to have kids? Oh, we're not going to have kids. Or no, we don't have kids. Oh, when are you going to have kids? No, I don't think that's really something we're thinking about right now. It's not really a plan.
I'll bet you do.
Yeah, I'll bet you do. Well, if you were going to have kids, what would you name them? But it's something that's annoying, right?
I think, the direction I kind of thought you were going was just that women are assumed to be more social. So it seems more... what am I trying to say? Like expected of them to like, look, I get along with this guy. Just come along and you'll talk about shopping or kids or whatever.
Honestly,
like
you'll just make it work.
I think you're right, and I think part of the reason why is because it kind of is that way for most men. Like I feel like it's a lot easier for men to just meet other men and have something in common. Like, okay, so we don't enjoy sports. What
And
about
by the
this
way,
other
that
thing?
something can be sitting at a bar and drinking.
Yeah, it can be really simple.
Yeah.
It can be really, really basic. What beer do you like? Oh, I like IPAs too. Wow,
Yeah.
we're now best friends.
Or like, what beer do you like? Oh, I don't like IPAs.
yeah.
Yeah.
Great, we're still best friends.
Yeah, you know what? I like them. So what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as I've grown older, and I guess they didn't say
They
like
didn't
how
give an
old
age.
they are or the range, but having friends with young kids makes me think they might be in the younger age group in their 20s. But as I've hit my like mid 30s, especially befriending the wives or girlfriends of like Peter's friends, I felt less pressure over the years. Whereas when I was in my 20s, I probably would have felt pressure to like, let me get your number. And I would have been the one like pursuing that because I'm more extroverted or outgoing. but there's at least like, one or two people I can think of off the top of my head. I'm fine going out with them. I have an enjoyable time. We try and do activities that we all enjoy, though. I will say that we're not like going over to their house with their children, but we're like meeting at a bar we like, or a restaurant we like, or just hanging out playing pool at like a bar or something. And so there are things we can do that are enjoyable that I don't have to be best friends with them. And the second part of that is I would love to kind of destigmatize the idea that women and men have to split when they all hang out. That has been something when I go over to friends' houses and everyone's like coupled. Yeah. It tends to naturally happen sometimes, but myself and other girlfriends of mine have shared that we would love for there to be an environment where we can all just hang out together. And if someone doesn't have a partner there, or like in your case, Ryder, a non-wife, you don't want to go, your spouse can still go and still visit with everyone. You don't have to be like, it's just the guys' night. Like, why can't you talk to their wives too?
It's not like a nightclub where you need a woman to get in, right?
Yeah. Is that how it works?
It is. Yeah.
You have to pay.
You don't
to.
know. Yeah. We also pay for our own drinks.
I don't know if you knew this, but alcohol costs money. You probably never had to experience this.
I don't believe
you don't know what it's like in the real world.
We're going to the bar later, right?
Yeah.
Of course you want to go. It's always free, right?
Or now you touch my thigh. Want your free drinks.
So last year, my niece
we learned quickly.
Graduated college. And for her graduation, SJ and I, we said, okay, we'll fly you. And because we were like, we couldn't get to the graduation. So we said, well, for your graduation present, we'll fly you and whoever you want to Vegas. And y'all come stay with us for a week and you can do Vegas. You're over 21 now.
Yeah.
Like, come out. We'll do Vegas with you. And so one night they were like, we want to go to the nightclub. They wanted to go to Omnia, which is the mega club in Caesar's Palace. Yeah. It's one of the biggest nightclubs in North America. Yeah. And the DJ that was playing that night was a DJ that they were a big fan of. So one of the big celebrity DJs. That was it.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Huge
Parents just don't understand.
That's it.
Right, kids?
That's it. That's still his big hit.
You get it.
And they were amazed because SJ and I walked them up to the front of the line. Yep. Just bypassed the entire line completely, walked them up to the front of the line, and like I'm talking to the bouncer. I'm like, when I come in, they're gonna do that, and he kind of like gives me the look, and I was like, oh no, I'm not coming in.
Yeah,
it's just them.
Yeah, we're done here.
He's like, I don't know.
And he was like, oh, great. Come on in.
You get it? Oh, thanks for clearing that up, buddy. Yeah.
Like,
we don't have anything
I was in
weird.
like a t-shirt and a hat.
And
he was like, and they're all dressed to go to the club. The bouncer was absolutely just giving me the fucking stink eye.
These three girls will be coming in without an escort. You're welcome.
Yes. Yeah. And I was like, I just drove, and I'm going to drive them home.
I'm the Uber.
I'm going to sit in this poker room that's right here. I'll like kill a few hours, whatever. Yeah. It doesn't matter. These three blondes are going in. I'll be outside. Yeah. He was like, great, no problem.
Oh, everyone's happy.
Yeah.
You understand nightclubs.
No one paid money.
No money was exchanged.
And they immediately went inside and sat down at some random person's table and were given a bottle of alcohol.
Yep, that's how it works.
I do love the idea, though, of doing more activity-based things.
Yes.
Because like then you have something that the thing you have in common is the activity you're doing.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right? Yeah. If you're doing an escape room, which we know now.
We know now.
Right for the nerves. Jeez.
But
we're
like
watching Christian movies on
axe throwing, whatever the thing is that you're going to do.
Why are you only picking things you're good at? Why don't we ever do things you're not good at?
Well, you have to show up, Jim.
I'm not
you
good
have to
at.
show up, Jim, if you want to know if he's good at them or not.
He won't shut up about axe throwing. He's still really proud of it.
That's how good he is at it.
He took
pretty proud of
Laura to Topgolf on the first date and tried to set a record.
Yeah. That story was great.
For shortest relationship?
Yes. Ending it fastest.
That was pretty quick.
I like your advice, though. Make it more about the activity.
It was her advice, but I'll take credit for it.
No, I heard it
that's how it works.
Jim was speaking to Whitney.
You know what? I respect that you buy your own drinks. And so I hear your advice.
Thank you.
I only hear 75% of her advice.
I bought mine with makeup and dresses. That's where my drink money went.
I put my drink money on this outfit. You're welcome, America. I like that. That's really so. Mom, you are very social. You weren't when I was growing up.
Really?
You were not as. She was very family oriented. So it's
Oh,
just
I can see
raising
that
the
from the
kids.
story before.
Right. Yeah. Just
it's
raising
not time
the
to
kids.
be social if you're doing
You
that
know,
work.
we'd see other members of our family. You know, uncles and aunts in the neighborhood, that kind of thing. That's who we socialized with. So my parents didn't have friends that were other couples. When you guys owned a business, you had some employees that you guys would entertain and go to dinner with occasionally, but really it's just like, hey, we're just
Acquaintances.
whatever, let's all have a meal and say hi. But whenever Maddie and I grew up and left the house and you kind of went into your own empty nester direction, then you seem very social now. Like you're in a biker gang. Like it's a lot of
Tats,
shit.
she connects with
There we go.
the
I
Winnie
don't ride
the
a
Pooh.
bike, but I'm in a gang.
Yeah, she has a vest and
I
everything.
even have a what do they call it? A biker
Vest.
name. They named me the Warden.
Yeah.
Because I call them out.
She's a snitch. No, it's because she's a snitch.
Okay, let's get this right. A snitch is not right. I call them out on things. If they're doing something that's
see,
not
that's the
right,
warden. You've never been to
then-
prison, Jim, and it
Oh,
shows.
sorry,
Right.
Whitney.
Okay.
Whitney,
Prison
no.
Mike.
Yeah, prison Mike.
What was the worst part of prison, Whitney?
Get my purple
Was it the
bandana.
Dementors?
But no,
Well,
Expecto
about
Patronum.
Azkaban.
Expecto Patronum, Jim.
I do have something to
me all
add
your
on this topic, though, guys.
Go on,
Sorry,
Mom.
go on,
Go
go
on.
on.
Okay, because
Go on,
I'm
Warden.
in that situation now that I'm almost 60. They, I have my husband likes to golf. His best friend's wife is a golfer. I hate it. Don't have any patience for it.
Nick does too.
My husband used to be a golf pro, so like he lives this stuff. Tried to teach me, which is a huge.
That is the worst. I've been
thing.
there. It is
Exactly.
the worst piece of
So
advice.
I don't. I can speak it, because
Yeah.
I have no choice. I have to watch all the tournaments.
This
but
is so funny, yeah.
but they want to get together. I have nothing in common with her.
They're all going to talk golf, all three of
Yes.
them, and you're going to sit there.
So I started putting the ball in my court, and I would say, okay,
There's
you
no
and
court in golf.
You, good one. That much I know. It's a course.
Yeah.
Don't get him
She knows
started.
the language. You can't trick her.
I know what a birdie is.
No, your son doesn't.
I know. I was
'Cause
embarrassed.
I was raised right. What the hell, Mom?
So anyway, what we do is that once a month we're going to meet with them. We limited it, and I
Like it.
I bring her to my house.
Yes.
So I make the dinner. I have the activities where we can relate, and it's not about
You have
golf.
things you can talk about.
And on the other hand, my husband is an introvert. He doesn't like a lot of people. He would rather just be at home, So we have friends. I have a friend, my best friend. He doesn't like her husband. They don't have anything in common. He feels awkward, and he
Hope they
feels
don't
like
listen to Pod Therapy.
they don't think
No one listens to Pod Therapy.
Good point, Nick.
He doesn't think that he's as intelligent,
Yeah.
enough.
That's hard.
So when we're going to hang out with them, we have a group and we have an agenda. We're always playing board games or some kind of outside game.
Yeah.
Kind of break it up.
Competition where all the women and men together, Pictionary, whatever. And that's like every other weekend. So as long as there's a group there, and we did go axe throwing, we went to that, and so it was
Did you hear that, Jim?
it was competitive.
The warden from the warden's
so,
mouth.
So they didn't have to talk.
Also, I think this
you know.
settles whether they're Southern. They're throwing axes and shit.
We're Southern. Sweet tea and grits. We're Southern. But yeah, so that's what we do.
Tell them about the inbreeding,
Jacob's
Mom.
not convinced.
That'll sell them.
Well, there he is.
Just means you're part of Kentucky.
There he is.
Wow. Really glad the show does not have a video feed. My mom gestured to me and said, the inbreeding.
There he is. There he
I'm the
is.
example.
Yes.
I ended up with ADD,
Yeah.
so thanks for that. So your advice is bring the person into your space.
Yeah, bring them into your space
Own
because
it first.
maybe they're uncomfortable because
Yeah.
they feel like they're not as good as you or as intelligent
Right.
or they're just a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
So if you bring them into your world and introduce them to some other things and meet them on your playing ground every now and then.
That kind of shows them that like you almost respect them. Like, hey,
And
you're
you're
good enough to
trying.
be in my space
Right,
and like on this
exactly.
same level.
and
you know?
open
take
up
your shoes
their
off at the front door,
interests,
please.
you know?
Obviously. They live in
Of
Vegas.
course.
Oh God, Vegas is the worst. That's good advice, Mom.
That is.
I like that.
Show. You're 2 for 2.
3 for 3.
If only you could figure out this Kennedy shit.
Oh,
Shut up, Whitney.
I like her.
that mom likes me. That's all that matters.
Whatever. Yeah, God, you're such a kiss ass. So ridiculous.
As long as she's happy, I'm happy.
Yeah. Great, Tracy. You just come back anytime.
I'll bet Whitney would even chip in so that next time you don't have to fly Spirit.
thank
That's how
you.
good I am.
Go for it,
yeah.
Whitney. You can buy her tickets.
I
don't
have
care.
Southwest points.
She's gonna bring
'cause
way
I have
too
a
many
Southwest
bags.
credit card. Okay?
Do you really?
Yes.
Southwest lets you pay for the fucking bags with the points.
Yes.
No, the
Can't-
bags
do
are
they
free.
really?
Yeah,
I never
'cause they're
bring
a
it
real
back.
Every other airline does.
Damn.
They're
it.
Every
bags are
other
free,
airline,
yeah.
you can just pay for the bags with. You can pay for the bags with points. You can pay for seat
Spirit.
upgrades with the points.
Do you know what else? Spirit charges me a tax to use my points.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like
Because
it's
Spirit gonna Spirit.
dude. they're
Spirit
so
gonna Spirit.
fucking
If you
dumb.
wrote it into a script, it would get kicked back and say it was 2 on the
This
nose.
is ridiculous. All right. Hey, writer, thanks for this, Anana Wife. That was a great question, and hopefully we gave you a little bit of feedback. I liked those answers. I don't have one to contribute because I don't have any friends. As we wrap up the show, we want to remind you that
I
if
just
you
hate everybody,
sign up at patreon.com/therapy,
Quiet over there, Jacob.
you can get...
including you.
Jacob just drops shrooms before every encounter, just in case it goes in any direction.
Yes,
He wants to be
be
ready.
prepared.
Yeah, but then he's always happy to be there. Some guy's like, "Oh, anyway, I'm an accountant." He's like, "Tell me everything."
The accountant.
Can
Numbers.
I see the Excel
Fascinating.
spreadsheets? Oh my God, they're moving. Anyway, as we wrap up the show, we want to remind you can sign up at patreon.com/therapy. You can get that extended show ad-free a day earlier. And Nick has a thumb up.
Can I just point out?
Yes.
No.
So Jim, little peek behind the curtains here.
Ooh, sexy.
I usually put all the pre-show stuff together.
Yes.
Jim does all the post-show stuff.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Jim posts it. Jim does all that.
Yeah.
I hit record. Whitney
I do
shows
nothing.
up and talks.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I do nothing.
Whitney
here.
shows
What
up
is-
and gets
where are we
obliterated drunk.
Where are we going with this, Nick? Because I'm
Drink
feeling
for
very
free.
called out.
Jim was not able to post the episode last week on Spreaker.
Yeah.
So I posted it, which meant I had to like go in and put in all the commercial breaks and all that
Yeah.
jazz.
Oh, wow.
And so I listened to it on my Spotify because I wanted to make sure I did it correctly.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I can honestly say, hey, it's worth $1 to not have
just
to
not
listen
deal
to
with
the
that
ads.
bullshit. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very
Wow,
true.
there are a lot of ads.
Yeah.
I mean, to actually hear it for the first time with all the ad breaks and everything,
Yeah.
that sucks.
Oh, it's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pay the buck.
It's definitely worth $1.
It's $1.
Yeah.
Also, don't worry. We don't get it.
Yeah, I know that dollar
If
goes
you're
to
thinking,
Patreon.
man, I want to do that because I really want to skip the ads, but I don't want the blood on my hands of having anything to do with the show.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Oh, I get it. No, I don't want. I get it. I certainly don't contribute. But
That's why the bottom
don't
level
worry.
at Ice Cream Social is $2.
Yeah,
That's
Because
right.
then we actually get something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Honestly, like if you are listening to this, if you're thinking about going in on the Patreon, or if you're already in at the dollar level on Patreon, kick it up to $2.
Yeah.
Because that's when the show actually gets something out of it.
That's just true.
yeah. We don't get anything
That
for the
$1
dollar,
just
But,
contributes to the Patreon.
but I'll tell you what, you do. You get to not listen to those ads.
Yeah,
and that
That
is
is
totally
a
worth it.
reward.
Yeah.
That is a reward. Also, I don't know if this is true, but I believe Spotify, somebody told us on the Discord that Spotify adds a whole bunch of their own ads.
Oh, do they? I don't know.
And so a lot of
Oh, wow.
podcasters are pissy because Spotify throws all that on there and
Yes.
there's no revenue
Yeah.
channeled back to the shows. Whereas when people listen to like
Interesting.
Apple or whatever,
Also, it doesn't count towards any kind of monetization because like streaming platforms don't really count the same way that downloads count towards monetization of shows.
oh really?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a big part of it too. So.
Because you can measure how many downloads
but you can't
a
measure
podcast
a
gets.
stream.
Because every time you stop a stream and then restart it, that counts as a second stream.
Oh, interesting.
So like you could have like 20,000, 20 million stream listens, and it could be one person listening to the same to different parts of the show over and over again.
Yeah.
And each of those is a separate stream.
Wow. See, this is we should really sit down and learn all this, Nick. I mean, we've
Nah.
done this for 6 years.
Why start now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it's-
we're doing fine.
Actually, yeah, that's a good point. Anyway, patreon.com/therapy, and you get that extra, no ads, a day earlier, all for $1. and you get to join the Discord community. Really great. The best part of our show are the listeners. And so go into the Discord, meet them. Because if you've been hanging out this long and you're not part of that, you're missing the best part, which is just the community of wonderful humans all week long chatting in there. Go in there. If you want to kick it up to that $1 or $5 or higher level, then you'll get access to more content. We publish every Monday with weekly deep dives, interviews, skill shares, research roundups, and rants. That stuff is a bit more serious. It tends to be a little bit more clinical, academic, educational. But yeah, a great start to your week. And then, Thursday comes around and you get to have the hootenanny with all of us. So check it out. Patreon.com/therapy. And we've got some new folks joining the party.
We do. We've got a new Therapal, and I believe that's a misprint. I think that should say Justin McBride.
Not Justing?
No, I don't think it's Justing.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
So welcome.
His name is Ting.
Just
Ting.
Ting McBride. And thank you to our partners, Dirty B, Myra, and Pickett. And thank you to my mom for supporting us all these years.
Thanks Bat Mom.
And
You're
being
welcome.
here.
Time to up your Patreon level.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Mom, you're a patron, aren't you?
I'm the $5 one.
Yeah, but you don't listen to any of it.
I have them recorded. I just haven't listened to since I started this new job.
She's saving them up for when
Yeah.
she has to fly
Do you
Spirit.
remember-
They canceled the
Yeah.
flight. and She's
Just
stuck at
putting
the
it on a
airport.
tape.
Shut up.
Yeah, I agree. There we go.
A couple of months ago, we thought that she wasn't listening anymore.
Yeah, and we had a test.
So we ran a test where we said something on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then she never brought it up.
Yeah.
And so I knew she didn't listen. And then on this trip, we were chatting about the show. And I said, I don't know if you've ever heard an episode with Whitney, but we have a female co-host. And she was like, yeah, I thought I heard something about that. And I was like, you don't listen to the show.
No.
She's like, no, I haven't listened since like
So that's
June.
not
get
what
it.
happened.
I get it.
Okay.
You did your 300th episode?
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so there was a picture. And she was in it.
That
And you
hustle.
two was in it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, hold it.
Hold
Yeah.
up.
Where's my boy?
Yeah.
What's
They
going
kicked
on?
him out.
And
She
so
Yoko Ono'd us, Mom.
did.
he didn't answer my call, or text.
That sounds right.
So
Yeah.
I
I
had
didn't
to
get
ask,
it, remember?
I had to ask his sister, what's going on. And then she told me, and I'm like, okay.
Maddie knew?
You told her.
Oh,
You didn't
that
tell your
sounds
own
right.
mother. Yeah.
Why
So-
didn't you just text me?
Yeah.
Should have. I'm going to start texting
Before you leave
again.
here today, we're going to make sure you've got all of our numbers.
You
Yeah,
text
yeah.
me anytime you want.
I do.
No, what I hear there is you get as many texts as she chooses to send you.
Yeah.
Which is exactly the 0 that you've ever received. All right, I'm dragging this train wreck into the fucking parking lot. I'm done. We want to thank our bosses, the Mysterious and Shrouded... and Dirty B, Myra, and Pickett, if I didn't already say that. The Mysterious and Shrouded Illuminati members of the fan club, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie Jr., Mint, Smitty, Scoop, Ben Dawn, Judy Schneider, Kayla Lansbury, Mrs. and Mr. Hot Dog Scoop, Malia, Leon Kassab, Mason Miller, Richard Macy. Hey, this would be a great section for Whitney to do.
I was waiting for this day.
Here it is.
We finally
I thought
found
I
it.
was
Why
gonna
am I
take
doing
over
this?
the.
Oh, Jesus.
Over the-
Jacob
and
has
why
gotten
would
up
I-
and he's
Thank
given my mom a
you.
business
Aw.
card. Is that his life coach card?
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is.
Jesus, I can't believe that still exists. Didn't we make that like four
But
and a half
look at the
years
other
ago?
side.
Yeah.
Look at the other side.
Oh.
I found
it's
mine when I was
private
cleaning
number.
out.
Oh, his private number.
There's a handwritten note on that.
Yeah. For a good time or
That's
life
exactly
coaching.
right.
I scratched out the part where it said, I'll call you. Just put my number in there.
You're the only person who got one of those. All right, Whitney, go
I'll do
ahead.
it.
Frame that.
Where did you leave off?
It doesn't
I wasn't
matter.
listening.
Start over. The whole script from the beginning.
No.
Thank
And
the
we want to
bosses.
especially thank our bosses. Y'all don't say all of this, though.
No, I cut out Saccharin 16.
Yeah, why?
And Nick never deleted it. Because
Why?
it confused
What-
people.
Yeah, what
Holy
is it?
shit, it doesn't matter.
But I need to. I've been wondering every
Years
episode.
ago, we were doing the March Madness Sweet 16 thing.
But we
And
couldn't say Sweet 16
so we
because
called them,
that's
yeah, it's copyrighted.
copyrighted.
So we said
we went
saccharin.
Saccharin 16.
That
But-
is copyrighted.
According
Probably.
to Jacob, and we're not really
What?
educated enough to... You're the one that told us we couldn't say it.
You know he was lying.
We don't know when he's lying.
I don't remember saying that at all.
No, that is true. We have no idea what he's telling
No
the truth.
clue. So it seemed
Yeah.
credible. He said it with a lot of
Everything he
confidence.
says, I believe.
Yeah. He looks you in the eye and he says it
I have
unwaveringly.
zero memory of saying that.
I'm so gullible.
That doesn't
I
mean it
believe
didn't happen and you know it.
No, I'm not disputing you at all.
So anyway, that's what happened. And then listeners got confused because they were like, oh, I wanted to be a therapy producer, but you already have 16.
Yeah,
And
that's
we were
what
like,
I thought. I'm like,
no,
who are
that
these
was a
first
joke. So we
16?
stopped using it. And I told him delete it from the script. He didn't do it.
No, I'll get around to it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to read it if it's
Go
on
for
the
it.
script.
All right. Well done, Nick. You did this.
And we want to especially thank our bosses.
What are
the
you, Ron
Saccharin-
Burgundy? You can't fucking just
The Saccharin-
skip it?
No, you told me. I
Go
follow
fuck yourself, San
directions.
Diego.
All right, and we
Jesus,
want no,
Whitney.
just kidding.
Highly educated. You can skip 2 words.
No, the Saccharin 16. I have to read it. Jim told me to read it. The mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of our fan club, the Ther producers. Thank you, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie Jr., Smitty Scoop, Ben Don, Judy Snyder, Kayla Lansbury, Mrs. and Mr. Hot Dog Scoop, Malia, Leon Kassab, Mason Miller, Richard Macy, Carolyn Albert, Kevin Chamberlain, Tess Miller, Sammy Scoop, Ben Stanley Slap in Your Face, Sarah Smith, Adam Hathaway, Byler T, University Jeff, Mike Helm, almost said Ham, Paris.
How dare you?
I know.
Mike is a good person.
I
and I will
believe
not
it.
stand here while you insult him.
Ham's yummy, so it's
It
fine.
is.
Samantha Cohn, Darren Cunningham, Lib, Team Monaco, Thunder Cougar, Falcon, Scoop, Matt and Lisa Tangeman, Heyo, Oscar Swanrose, Sunny Boy, Slurpee Kaye, motherfucker, Sandra
My
McLaughlin,
mother is right here. How dare you?
Dan Martin, Hannah
She
Marie.
is a lady.
Fuck you, Jim.
And if you would like to hear this episode uncut and unedited,
And why wouldn't you?
and enjoy our spontaneous side projects, go to patreon.com/therapy. And thank you for supporting
Show
mental
is
health.
Fucking terrible. That's all the time we got for this week's session. We're
Cream
thank
pies.
my mom. Jesus, it's on me.
Yep.
Thank you,
cream pie
Mom,
is on you.
for being here. It's nice to have you. I'm sorry that I keep doing this. I'll quit the show soon. Remember, pod therapy isn't something you should keep all to yourself. Share the episode with someone who needs it. Tag us on the socials when you do. It's at PodTherapyGuys on Instagram and Twitter. It's /PodTherapy on Facebook. We'll probably create a Threads account here pretty soon.
Yes, let's do it.
It will be at PodTherapyGuys because it'll be an extension of our Instagram.
I don't know what any of that is.
Still
Don't worry about
sexist.
it. I'll explain later.
Okay.
Something. Patreon.com/therapy.
Do you want to submit a question to the show? Ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tangeman.
I'm Whitney.
I'm Bat Mom.
Yeah.
Yay! And I apparently was diagnosed with ADHD as a
Thanks, and we'll see you for your appointment next week.
Yes.
child. You got a JFK tiebreaker?
I got 3.
All right, here we
Although
go.
I'm skipping one because one's kind of boring. Last 2.
Well, now I want to know what that one
Yeah,
was.
you
Yeah,
got to
no,
read it at the
you-
end.
All right,
Throw
fine.
that out
Here's the one I was going to skip.
Okay.
Closest without going over. The only video